this is interesting because this is indeed actually a challenging item for me right now, because by being so specific about monetizing and crediting the impacts that we generate from our business model, and actually selling those credits to third-party buyers, what can I offer my investors in terms of impact? Because the impact they generate is actually being sold to others, so they shouldn't be claiming that. Now, if they do, I can't stop them doing it. So that is probably a little bit of double counting on their behalf. So for me, the first answer to the question, or the answer to your first question is, because it's very structured and monetized and credited, that's how we measure those specific impacts. Now, beyond that, there is more of an ecosystem impact that is probably more of a qualitative nature than of a quantitative nature. It also has to do with the innovativeness of the business. And I'm actually right in that process with some of our potential investors to carve out what it is they want to show and tell and measure. And of course, jobs created, livelihoods improved, those are fairly easy to measure numbers. Also, you could still get into double counting in some aspects. But having an innovative business model and an ecosystem influence is more of a qualitative nature with a good fundamental story behind it. You don't have to always necessarily measure everything. It can be, to put it bluntly, the picture and the story behind it as well that attracts investors. At least the investors that I'm chasing.
Oh yeah, it's interesting. Can I answer this one, or? Yeah. It's interesting that the question's coming from a DFI, because probably every single DFI that we've talked to have asked the same, and it probably has to do with the fact that typically, as investors, LPs for us, you don't sit on the board or the investment committee because of a regulatory issue. Basically, there are many ways to answer it, but the way we've decided to do that is basically put our money where our mouth is. As investment managers, part of our remuneration comes from what's called the carried interest, and we've just handed over these carried interest to a third party who will say eventually whether we have achieved the social mission we've offered or not. We've delivered, sorry.
Yeah, it's a really great question. I mean, this is, we can't forget why we're doing what we're doing, right? Our objective is to have the impact, and measuring it, of course, and having accountability is critical. At our organization, we have actually somebody who's in charge of social, impact management is what I think we call it, and we've spent a lot of time creating processes, basically integrating. We don't have two parallel processes. We don't have an investment process and a social impact process. We spend a lot of time integrating the social impact measurement and frameworks and how we look at impact directly into our investment process. That's the first point. We decided to actually become a Gears rated fund as well. So as we all know, measuring impact is not easy. It's complicated. It can be also expensive. It can be burdensome if you don't do it right to the investees. We've explored a lot of different methods of doing it, and in the end we decided to go on board with this new Gears initiative. I think is a very good initiative, and we have our fund being rated by Gears. On a quarterly basis, we, together with Gears, we've actually put together a list of metrics, which are outputs, unfortunately not necessarily outcomes, but outputs, which give us an indication of the impact our investees are having, and we report these on a quarterly basis to our investees, and that's the way we build accountability internally.